Last August, Ashanti Hamilton was chosen to lead Milwaukee's Office of Violence Prevention after the mayor's office fired Director Arnita Holliman. So far in 2023, data shows a 17% increase in all homicides in the city involving kids, and 14% of the homicide suspects were kids. Milwaukee leaders are demanding action. Hamilton and Quinn Taylor, a violence interrupter with OVP, joins us now to discuss what's causing youth violence spikes. Men, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So, Ashanti, what's behind the spike in youth violence that we're seeing?
Yeah, I don't think there are any easy answers to this. What we are seeing is some national trends that are trending that way across the nation. We know that we're still reeling from some of the effects of the COVID pandemic. And we're also seeing an increase in the development and participation in what's come to be called as youth pain-based groups. You know, a lot of turmoil happening between a lot of these young cliques that seem to have, you know, created a bond around some kind of tragic event or, you know, some common experience. And the use of social media and egging on many of these conflicts has proven to be, you know, a very strong igniter of these conflicts in the city.
So is this violence gang related?
So I would, you know, in the traditional sense of gangs, these are young people who have decided to associate with each other, and a lot of times they have names that they're calling their group. Not the same as traditional gangs when it comes to, you know, a hierarchy and you know, a common set of rules. It's more about relationships and support that they kind of create these bonds.
Yeah. Quinn, what are you seeing as a violence interrupter?
What I'm seeing is a lot of youth just looking for an outlet, looking for a way to release energy. We have a name that we all know of now is the Kia Boys. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of good youth that's associated with the Kia Boys. I just wanted to be known that the term Kia Boys is just a conduit, and a lot of the youth almost is forced to be a part of the Kia Boys. And a lot of these youth organizations, there's a murder that will happen, mm-hmm. And then they form a bond through that, and cliques are formed.
So talk about how you interact with people as a violence interrupter. Take me through what that looks like.
Well, for me, it's connecting the community to resources. A lot of our community organizations that's designed to help individuals navigate through some of the things that they're dealing with in life. Mm-hmm. My job is to connect them to those resources, to help them to navigate through that process, and try to do it in a way of not violating their sense of well-being. There's a lot of trust that our community has lost over time. And my focus is to rebuild that trust.
But how do you do that? So do you go into the community, you talk to the families that were hurt by crime? Do you also talk to the people who committed the crimes?
Yes, some of both. One thing that I have to my disposal is our MKE Promise Keepers. So I'll oversee 13 teams of Promise Keepers, credible messengers, that have lived experiences, that knows how to navigate through these systems. So we do a lot of community outreach, a lot of engagements, and use the different resources that we have to connect them to the resources that's needed.
Ashanti, it's been a year now. What are you seeing? Have you filled out your team of people at OVP yet, or are you short?
Yeah, so we're still operating with less than half of the staff that the office is designed to have. So most of this year we've we've been operating with just a third of that staff.
What's a third? How many people do you have?
So that would have been 3 people in an administrative staff. So it's been about 4 people. We're currently at 7, and we're interviewing now for 2 manager positions and 3 coordinator positions. That'll be the most that the office has been staffed up in 2 years. And so I think it'll be good because it's a infrastructure that we needed to build. I went through a reorganizing of the office to really focus in on a lot of the preventative work. You mentioned the violence interrupters. A lot of people know of the Office of Violence Prevention because of that particular work. There are other folks that's doing violence interruption work too. Quinn mentioned the credible messengers. We have some of those that are really being led through the county that's doing case management with some of the most high-risk violent offenders in the city. So that's happening over at the county. That's working in conjunction with the team that we have over at MCW, which is 414 Life, which is doing some of the most intense violence interruption, building relationships with a lot of the pain-based groups. Many of them have already had relationships with them, so when you have an incident that happens in the city, they can actually speak to both sides to try to mitigate some of those situations. And then the team that Quinn is leading, which is really trying to do a lot of that primary prevention work, organizing communities, addressing some of the environmental effects, in the city, in neighborhoods. So there's different ways of being able to do that. You need a staff that's able to carry out all of that work, because we're building relationships with many community-based organizations in the city. And that level of coordination to address these major issues, it takes staff to do it.
And you guys conducted an interview, not a press conference in July. And I noticed it was you were there, the mayor was there, Arnita Ball, the sheriff, and also the police chief. Mm-hmm. And I constantly heard the group criticizing parents, saying, the parents need to do more. What do you want parents to do?
And I would frame it more as a invitation to parents. There's a level of activity that I feel like only people in that young person's life that they already look up to can have an influence over. And one of the things that we've been working on through the course of the year is an effort called Rebuilding the Village. How do we re-establish the type of relationships in our community where there's a sense of both responsibility collectively for the young people that exist here? And Quinn mentioned building trust. One of the things that's been a common theme when we're addressing young people in the city is the belief that nobody cares about them. And it's demonstrated by how our institutions and how the community in general is serving them and giving them the types of things that they need in order to be successful. We have to fix that relationship. And we can't just do it in isolation with youth. We have to work with the families that they belong to as well.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation for sure, but I thank you for the work that you do, and we'll have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.